The massive Varadi ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, its smooth silver surface reflecting sunlight as it lowered toward the designated landing site outside Seoul. Military personnel and government officials stood in tight formation, tension visible in their rigid postures despite months of preparation for this moment. President Kim watched from behind bulletproof glass, his face betraying no emotion though his hands gripped each other tightly. This was humanity's first confirmed alien contact, the day that would change human history forever. The ship settled on the ground with barely a sound, much quieter than any human aircraft. For several long minutes, nothing happened. Then a seam appeared in the seemingly solid hull, widening into a ramp that extended to touch the ground. 3 tall figures emerged. The Varadi stood nearly 7 feet tall with slim bodies covered in iridescent blue skin. Their 6-fingered hands moved with strange grace, and their large eyes, entirely black without visible pupils, scanned the gathered humans. Major Park Jin stood at attention beside the president, fighting to keep his face neutral. His military instincts screamed that something was wrong. The aliens moved too confidently, their posture suggesting they already knew what to expect. "We come in peace and friendship," the lead alien announced through a small device at its throat, the words coming out in perfect Korean. "I am Envoy Thax of the Varadi Confederation, extending greetings to Earth." The formal welcome ceremony proceeded as planned. President Kim stepped forward to deliver his prepared speech, welcoming the visitors to Earth and expressing hope for peaceful exchange of knowledge and culture. That evening, at the secure military facility where the aliens were housed, Park watched their interactions through surveillance cameras. Something in their mannerisms bothered him deeply. "They're too comfortable," he told Director Lee of Korean intelligence. "They don't show any of the awkwardness you'd expect from beings encountering a new species." Lee nodded slowly. "We've noticed the same thing. They claim this is first contact, but they navigate our customs too easily." Over the next 3 weeks, Thax and his delegation met with world leaders, scientists, and cultural representatives. They spoke of technological exchange, medical advancements, and cultural sharing. Earth governments welcomed them cautiously, while intelligence agencies around the world shared information about inconsistencies in the Varadi stories. Park was reviewing satellite footage when he noticed something strange: smaller Varadi craft leaving the mothership at night, traveling to remote areas and returning hours later. When questioned, Thax dismissed it as atmospheric testing for scientific purposes. "They're scanning our resources," Director Lee said, handing Park a classified folder. "Mineral deposits, ocean composition, atmospheric compounds. They've mapped more of our planet in 3 weeks than we have in decades." Meanwhile, the Varadi seemed unimpressed by human technology. Park overheard 2 of them speaking in their native language, unaware that experimental translation software was recording them. "Primitive. Barely past combustion technology," one said. "Easy acquisition," the other replied. When Thax addressed the United Nations a month after arrival, the facade finally cracked. The Varadi stood before representatives of all Earth nations, his black eyes sweeping the room. "The Confederation has classified Earth as a world of significant biological and mineral importance," he announced. "As such, your planet will now be designated a protected resource domain under Varadi stewardship." Confused murmurs filled the chamber. The Secretary General leaned forward. "Could you clarify what you mean by stewardship?" Thax's lips formed what might have been a smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "For your protection and development, we will establish administrative centers on each continent. Resource extraction will proceed under our supervision. Human governance will continue for day-to-day matters, under Varadi oversight." The chamber erupted in outrage. President Kim stood up, face flushed with anger. "That sounds like occupation, not partnership." "Call it what you wish," Thax replied calmly. "Resistance would be unfortunate. Our ship in orbit has weapons capabilities that could reduce your largest cities to ash in minutes. We hope for willing cooperation, but it is not required." As if to emphasize his point, screens around the chamber lit up with satellite images of more Varadi ships entering Earth's atmosphere, heading toward predetermined locations around the globe. Park received the emergency alert on his phone and rushed from the observation gallery. In the hallway, he bumped into Director Lee, whose face was grim but strangely calm. It's happening, Lee said quietly. Activate protocol Sleeping Dragon. It's time to show them what humans are really capable of. Park nodded, pulling out a special communication device. The Varati had made a critical mistake. They had judged Earth by what they could see, never suspecting what humanity had been hiding for decades. 6 months after the Varati ultimatum, Earth appeared to have accepted alien rule. Varati patrol ships hovered over major cities. Their bases dotted the landscape. Mining operations extracted rare minerals from sites across the globe, with giant ships carrying resources to orbit weekly. In Seoul, civilians walked with heads down past Varati guards, their faces showing resignation. News channels broadcast approved content, praising the protection the aliens provided. To all outward appearances, humanity had surrendered. Major Park Jin, now dressed in civilian clothes, sat in a nondescript cafe near the Han River, sipping coffee while watching a Varati patrol glide by. When his phone vibrated with a specific pattern, he calmly paid his bill and left, following a route designed to avoid surveillance. 3 subway rides and 1 bus later, he entered an abandoned-looking warehouse. Inside, he pressed his palm against a hidden scanner. The floor descended, carrying him deep underground to a facility few knew existed. The elevator opened to reveal a massive cavern beneath the city. Hundreds of people worked at stations controlling advanced technology. At the center stood an enormous warship, unlike anything humans publicly acknowledged possessing. Status report, Park said, approaching Lieutenant Moon, who monitored system readiness. Power systems at 94%. Dimensional cloak holding steady. The Varati still have no idea we're here, she replied without looking up from her console. They're scanning for radio transmissions, not quantum signals. Similar scenes played out beneath cities worldwide. Under London, beneath the Australian outback, deep in the Amazon, and below the Pacific Ocean, hidden facilities housed Earth's true defense force, preparing in silence. Director Lee greeted Park in the command center. You weren't followed? No. They've actually reduced street patrols this week. They think we've given up, Park said. Lee nodded. Excellent. Their overconfidence helps us. Dr. Kong reports the orbital grid is nearly ready. Dr. Kong worked in a facility deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. For 20 years, she had led development of Earth's planetary defense system, technology that had remained hidden even from most world governments until the Varati arrived. Calibration at 89%, she told her assistant as they worked on the final adjustments to the system. The satellites are in position, cloaked from Varati sensors. How can they not detect any of this? Her assistant asked, gesturing at the enormous underground facility. Dr. Kong smiled thinly. They scan what they expect to find. They believe they understand our technological level based on what we've shown them. They don't scan deep enough because they don't believe we have the capability to build anything this far underground. On the surface, the Varati continued their exploitation. In what had once been a protected forest in Thailand, their mining equipment tore through the earth, extracting rare minerals. The local water supply turned toxic, but complaints were met with threats. When workers at a Brazilian processing plant protested dangerous conditions, Varati guards used sonic weapons to disperse them, leaving dozens with internal injuries. The aliens made no apologies. Earth belonged to them now. In his private quarters, President Kim received reports from the resistance network. The public still believed he was merely a figurehead for the aliens, making announcements written by Varati officials. The aliens themselves believed it too. The Varati commander inspected our satellite production facility yesterday, Kim told Park during their secured communication. He laughed at our primitive design. What he doesn't know is that each satellite contains components for the defense grid, Park replied. When activated, they'll transform into weapon platforms. In orbit, a Varati science officer reported unusual energy readings to his commander. I'm detecting power fluctuations from their oceanic regions, he said. Should we investigate? The commander barely looked up from his console. Probably their primitive nuclear reactors. Nothing that could possibly threaten us. Focus on mapping the mineral deposits in Sector 7. The officer hesitated. The readings are unusual, not consistent with their known technology. These humans barely managed to reach their moon. They have nothing that warrants our concern, the commander dismissed. Continue your assigned tasks. Meanwhile, Dr. Kong and her team completed final preparations. The defense grid satellites were in position, disguised as communication and weather monitoring equipment. Earth's hidden fleet stood ready in underground and underwater bases. Dimensional cloaking technology, humanity's secret innovation, hid it all from alien sensors. 3 more weeks, Dr. Kong told Director Lee during their encrypted communication. We need 3 more weeks to ensure synchronized activation. What the Verati never suspected was that humanity had detected their first scouts nearly 50 years earlier. Earth had been preparing ever since, developing technology in secret while maintaining a public facade of much slower progress. As a Verati ship flew over Busan, scanning for resources, Lieutenant Moon watched from below ground, monitoring the cloak that hid their facility. They really have no idea what's coming, she whispered. The Verati mining operation outside Taejun ran day and night for 3 months. What had once been a lush valley now resembled a crater, the earth torn open by alien machinery. Toxic runoff flowed into the river despite the aliens' initial promises to protect Earth's environment. Professor Yoon stood at the edge of the security perimeter, testing water samples. As Korea's leading ecologist, he had dedicated his life to protecting natural resources. Now he documented the destruction, carefully collecting evidence of the Verati's broken promises. The heavy metal concentration is 10 times worse than last week, he told the small group of protesters gathered nearby. The river is essentially dead for 20 kilometers downstream. A young woman named Ji took photos with a small camera. People need to see this. They promised to share technology and help our planet. They lied, Professor Yoon said simply. They never intended to help us. The crowd of protesters grew as the day progressed. Factory workers joined students and local farmers. By afternoon, over 300 people stood outside the Verati compound, holding signs and chanting for environmental protection. Inside the compound, the Verati supervisor observed the growing crowd with annoyance. He activated his communication device. Human disturbance outside Extraction Site 7. Request security response. When the Verati security forces arrived, they carried slender metal rods. Without warning or negotiation, they activated the sonic weapons. The air seemed to ripple as invisible waves hit the protesters. People fell to their knees, clutching their ears and internal organs. The pain was overwhelming, causing instant disorientation and internal bleeding. Professor Yoon collapsed alongside dozens of others as the aliens methodically swept the area. News of the attack spread quickly through underground channels. At the Pacific facility, Dr. Kong received word that her husband was among the critically injured. She stood perfectly still as the message came through, her face draining of color. Professor Yoon didn't survive, Director Lee told her gently. I'm sorry, Dr. Kong. She nodded once, her eyes dry but burning with a cold fury. Move up the timetable. We're ready enough. The defense grid is only at 92% capacity, her assistant protested. It's enough, Dr. Kong said, her voice sharp as steel. They've taken enough from us. Across the globe, the Taejun incident became a catalyst. In 24 hours, protests erupted in 30 major cities. The Verati responded with the same brutal efficiency everywhere, leaving hospitals overwhelmed with injured civilians. President Kim called an emergency meeting of the resistance leadership. Public opinion has shifted completely. The people are ready to fight back, even those who accepted Verati rule before. We're ahead of schedule on weapons systems, Colonel Han reported. But the defense grid needs. The grid is operational, Dr. Kong interrupted, joining the video call. Her face showed no trace of personal grief, only determination. Not at full capacity, but enough. I've recalibrated the system to work with current power levels. Director Lee studied her carefully. Are you certain? They killed my husband, Dr. Kong said simply. They've killed hundreds more. How many more will die while we wait for perfection? After a heavy silence, President Kim nodded. Very well. Operation Rising Phoenix will commence in 48 hours. Distribute the activation codes to all command centers. Beneath cities and oceans, military personnel prepared. Pilots conducted final simulations. Engineers checked systems. Medical teams stood ready. The resistance, hidden for so long, prepared to reveal itself. In orbit, the Varadi commander received reports of the global unrest with dismissive amusement. Let them protest. A few more demonstrations of our weapons will remind them of their place. His science officer appeared less certain. Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from multiple locations. Something is happening beneath the surface. They're primitive nuclear reactors, nothing more, the commander said. These humans have no technology that could possibly concern us. Down on Earth, Dr. Kong entered the final activation sequence for the planetary defense grid. Around her, technicians monitored global systems as hidden facilities worldwide synchronized their actions. Final authorization required, the system prompted. Dr. Kong removed a photograph from her pocket. She and Professor Yoon on their wedding day, both smiling in the sunlight of a world before the Varadi came. She touched his face once with her fingertip. For Earth, she whispered, pressing her palm against the scanner. The system acknowledged her identity with a soft chime. Defense grid activating. Dimensional cloak disengaging in 10 minutes. In cities around the world, resistance members received the signal. In underground bunkers, pilots climbed into advanced fighters unlike anything the public had ever seen. In hidden mountain bases, missile systems powered up. The Varadi, celebrating their easy suppression of the human protests, never noticed the subtle change in Earth's energy signature as thousands of hidden systems came online simultaneously. Dr. Kong watched the countdown timer, her husband's photograph still in her hand. They never bothered to understand what humans do when cornered, she said quietly. They're about to learn. The sky above Seoul shimmered on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday morning. Varadi Commander Thax stood on a platform addressing a gathering of compliant human officials, explaining new resource extraction quotas. His voice carried across the square as pedestrians hurried past with downcast eyes. Then it happened. The air above the city seemed to ripple, like heat rising from hot pavement, but across the entire sky. Pedestrians stopped and looked up. The Varadi guards tensed, their weapons ready. With a sound like tearing fabric, the sky split open. Where there had been only clouds moments before, an enormous battleship materialized. Sleek and deadly, the human warship was twice the size of the largest Varadi vessel. Its dark hull absorbed sunlight rather than reflecting it, covered with weapon systems unlike anything the aliens had ever seen on Earth. Impossible, Thax whispered, his translator unable to mask the shock in his voice. All across the planet, the scene repeated itself. In New York, London, Beijing, Rio de Janeiro, the skies split open as Earth's hidden fleet emerged from dimensional pockets, technology the Varadi had believed centuries beyond human capability. In the command center beneath Busan, Colonel Han watched the deployment on multiple screens. All ships report successful emergence, Lieutenant Moon announced. Dimensional cloaking disengaged. Weapons systems online. Han nodded and activated the global broadcast system. His voice transmitted to every corner of Earth, overriding all communication channels including Varadi frequencies. Attention Varadi forces. This is Colonel Han of the Earth Defense Force. Your occupation of our planet ends today. Your ships will power down weapons and prepare for escort out of Earth's atmosphere, or they will be disabled. In orbit, the Varadi commander stared in disbelief at his sensor readings. Where moments ago Earth had appeared defenseless, now advanced weaponry surrounded the planet. Hidden satellites transformed, revealing their true purpose as defense platforms. How is this possible? He demanded of his science officer. Their technology was primitive. They hid it from us, the science officer replied, his voice shaking. They showed us only what they wanted us to see. Above the Varadi mining operation in Australia, a human battleship hovered, its weapons locked on the alien facility. The Varadi supervisor ordered his troops to attack. Their energy weapons fired, but met an invisible barrier 3 meters from the human ship. Shield technology, the Varadi weapons officer reported in disbelief. They have functional energy shields. The human response was swift and precise. A targeted pulse disabled the Varadi weapons without harming the operators. Similar scenes played out worldwide as Earth's hidden technology neutralized the alien threat with surgical precision. Some Varadi ships attempted to flee Earth's atmosphere. They encountered the orbital defense grid, now fully operational under Dr. Kang's direction. Capture fields immobilized the ships while leaving life support intact. In Seoul, Thax watched his guards' weapons fail as human soldiers emerged from underground bases, wearing advanced armor that the Varadi had never seen before. The human crowd, previously fearful, now cheered as the aliens were surrounded. "You deceived us," Thax accused President Kim, who had appeared with the soldiers. "You pretended to be primitive. We showed you what you expected to see," President Kim replied calmly. "Your arrogance did the rest." In the Pacific Command Center, Dr. Kong monitored global operations. "Defense grid at 100% functionality," her assistant reported. "All Varadi ships contained." Dr. Kong nodded, allowing herself a moment to look at the photograph of her husband. "Status of civilian areas? Minimal damage." The precision targeting worked perfectly. Varadi weapons were neutralized before they could cause significant harm. The Varadi commander in orbit made a desperate final move. He transmitted a distress signal to the nearest Confederation fleet, knowing it would take hours for help to arrive. Then he ordered all remaining ships to concentrate fire on a single point in Earth's defense network. The human response came from an unexpected source. From beneath the Atlantic Ocean, an enormous vessel rose to the surface, Earth's flagship, commanded by Admiral Yu. The ship, 4 times the size of any Varadi vessel, positioned itself directly in the path of the alien attack. The Varadi fired everything they had. Their weapons struck the human ship's shields, which flared bright blue but held firm. When the barrage ended, the human vessel was undamaged. Admiral Yu's voice transmitted to the Varadi fleet. "That was your only warning. The next aggressive move will be met with force." To demonstrate, a single targeted pulse from the human flagship disabled the weapons systems on the Varadi command ship without damaging any other systems. In orbit, the Varadi commander stared at his dead console in shock. "How long?" he asked the human transmission. "How long have you had this technology?" Colonel Han's voice replied, "Long enough to know exactly what you are, and exactly how to defeat you." 3 hours later, the reinforcement Varadi fleet arrived through faster-than-light travel. Instead of finding a helpless Earth ready for conquest, they faced hundreds of advanced human warships and a fully operational planetary defense system. The Galactic Council representatives arrived within 48 hours of the Varadi defeat. 7 different alien species sent diplomats, traveling in ships that dwarfed even Earth's impressive vessels. They came not just because of the distress call, but because something unprecedented had happened. A supposedly primitive species had revealed advanced technology that had remained completely hidden from galactic surveillance. The Council delegation landed at the newly revealed international spaceport near Geneva. The facility had existed for decades, concealed beneath what appeared to be an ordinary mountain range. Now, with the dimensional cloaking technology deactivated, its true scale was visible, a sprawling complex capable of handling ships from across the galaxy. President Kim greeted the representatives alongside Colonel Han and Dr. Kong. The aliens varied dramatically in appearance, from the tall, crystalline Ardari to the small, multi-limbed Tekri. All regarded the humans with new interest, and perhaps a hint of wariness. "We have many questions," said Chief Counselor Nexel, the oldest of the delegates. "Your world was classified as pre-interstellar. Confederacy records showed you had barely reached your own moon." "Those reports were exactly what we wanted others to see," President Kim replied calmly. The delegates were led to a conference room where captured Varadi Commander Thax already sat, his once proud posture now defeated. The evidence against the Varadi Confederation was presented: recordings of their private conversations, their mining operations that violated galactic environmental law, their attacks on peaceful protesters. "You claimed Earth as a resource world without proper authorization," Counselor Nexel said to Thax. You violated multiple sections of the Sentient Rights Charter. Fax's eyes narrowed. They deceived us. They had technology they should not possess. You never asked how humans achieved nuclear technology only decades after first flight, Colonel Han replied. You never questioned why we had so many satellites in orbit. You never investigated why our technological progress seemed to plateau in certain areas while advancing rapidly in others. The council representatives exchanged glances. Chief Counselor Nexel turned to President Kim. How long have you known about the galactic community? We detected the first Varadi scout ships in 1947, Kim answered. They crashed in remote areas. We recovered their technology and the remains of their pilots. Instead of announcing this to our people, world leaders made a decision to prepare in secret. Dr. Kong stepped forward, activating a holographic display showing Earth's technological development timeline. We reverse engineered what we could. We developed our own innovations where we couldn't. The dimensional pocket technology is uniquely human, our greatest achievement and our greatest secret. Impossible, Fax spat. No species develops dimensional technology without going through predictable development stages first. You should have been detected. We maintained a careful facade, Dr. Kong explained. Our public technology progressed along expected paths. Meanwhile, our true advancements remained hidden in facilities the Varadi never thought to look for deep underground, under the oceans, within mountain ranges. The council representatives seemed both impressed and disturbed. Why reveal yourselves now? Asked the Ardari delegate. The Varadi gave us no choice, President Kim said. They killed our people. They destroyed our environment. They planned to strip our world of resources. Colonel Han tapped a control, displaying footage from the Taejun massacre. They killed hundreds of peaceful protesters, including Professor Yoon, Dr. Kang's husband. We had planned to reveal ourselves gradually over the next decade, but their actions forced our hand. The council deliberated for 3 days. During that time, more evidence emerged of Varadi violations across multiple worlds. It became clear that Earth was not their first victim, only the first to successfully resist. On the final day, Chief Counselor Nexel delivered the council's decision. The Varadi Confederation will face sanctions for their actions. Their mining rights are suspended pending full investigation. Earth is recognized as a sovereign interstellar power with all associated rights and responsibilities. Dr. Kong stood at the observation deck of the orbital station afterward, looking down at Earth. From space, the planet showed little sign of the conflict that had nearly consumed it. The Varadi mining operations had already begun to be dismantled, with restoration efforts underway. Your husband would be proud, Director Lee said, joining her at the window. She nodded, her eyes fixed on the blue planet below. They should have been more curious about us. Any species that survives its own violent history long enough to reach the stars is not to be underestimated. Beyond Earth's orbit, the planet's warships patrolled openly now, their dimensional cloaking no longer necessary. Ambassador Park prepared to depart for the galactic capital, where Earth would take its seat on the council for the first time. We have much to learn about our galactic neighbors, President Kim told him during the farewell ceremony. But we also have much to teach them. As Earth's delegation ship departed, Dr. Kong watched from the command center. The pretense was finally over. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through deception, but through ingenuity, determination, and ultimately, the courage to stand united against those who would exploit them. The stars no longer represented mystery and potential threat. They were now humanity's new frontier, and this time, they would approach them openly, as equals.